since you asked me to do it, I've been thinking about all the stuff we went through, and it's pretty amazing. I don't think I appreciated it enough, Max, when we were doing it. Just the unique group of guys we had, the high IQ. I thought I always go back to, man. Every guys, I got there. I called my friends in Minnesota. I said, let me tell you something. These dudes are different. They know how to play. I don't know what you jokers were doing, but everybody on that team had a really high basketball IQ. So everything you did just happened. Like you'd make
a wait a minute. Terry Dubrod there had a high basketball IQ.
Well, okay, let me see. Most guys on the team had a really high basketball IQ. Okay, hold on. The majority.
There was so many things that like memories rush when I talk to you about things. But I saw you the other day with Dr. J.
Yeah.
And saw your interview with him, and I laughed because I think we were down 3-1, and I love what you said. You were so honest. She was like, and when we finally beat him, he was like, I don't think we thought we could beat you. When we beat you, it was like, yeah, we won.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first time we played against Dr. J. So we go down there, and it was a different vibe. We go into Philly. We were always fun and loose and everything. I'm a rookie now. We go into Philly, and you guys are quiet. So I'm looking around going like, damn, when you're quiet, I'm like, you're not saying a word. ML's not saying a word. So I'm thinking, boy, these guys are got a different vibe about playing Philly. So we go out there to play Philly. And I will say one thing. I tell everybody out there, you and ML did such a good job with me being a rookie. I had never seen these guys before. I'm trying to defend them. You guys helped me so much, like push him left, do this. And sometimes your help was, he's on fire, you're in trouble. But, but I remember that night, ML and you said, hey, Kevin, you got to make Dr. J go left. So I'm thinking, well, hell, that doesn't sound that hard, So I get up on him. He goes by me right-handed the first time, and you guys are like, hey, got to push him, make him go left. I get up on his right side so far. He goes left and dunks it back over his way like this. I came over the bench, and you and ML said, I didn't say it was easy. I just said you got to make him go left.
I love
those guys. He was one of the guys, Max, that I idolized. So it was funny playing against those guys, but it's great being with you guys because you guys kept everything fun, competitive. But there wasn't. I never thought as a rookie. I was never overwhelmed at all because you guys were all better than I was. I was trying to figure out what the hell I was doing, and you guys helped me so much. It was just amazing.
I tell people who our arch enemies were, and for you and I, it was Robert Parrish and Larry Bird, because every day in practice it was me and you together. Okay, we got to go at these bitches today, and it was like I think back on. I'm like, man, that was unbelievable basketball when you think about those Hall of Famers and basketball IQs and the way guys played. But with the way you and I got together and played against Larry and Robert, those were battles, man.
Yeah, that was fun. And you know what? It was really competitive. So when we started playing, man, we might have had a lot of fun and laugh and joke around. But when we started competing, it was dead serious. We had a lot of times where we're MFing each other, we're screaming at each other. It's just the practices were fun. But the one thing I realized guarding all you guys had. Larry wasn't at this. Larry was only his second year, but you and Robert had your games down. You were going to drive and spin. You knew what you were going to do. Robert had that damn pterodactyl shot. I started blocking that thing. I used to always say, okay, I'm going to get it today. And I would jump. And I'd never blocked his jumper ever. And I played with the guy for 12 years. I never blocked his jumper once. But you guys knew exactly what you were going to do. Larry was just clever. He hadn't really defined his game at that point, Max. But he was coming off picks and doing that stuff. So when you and I would get after him, it was fun because you and I were two of the better defenders on the team.
Yeah.
And I think we both had the same attitude about it. We're going to make guys take tough shots. That was kind of our approach defensively. And so we make those guys take. Problem is they made tough shots. That's why they're in the Hall of Fame.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame, I was so happy when you were inducted, and I was even more excited and surprised when you mentioned my name in your Hall of Fame speech.
Another guy I'd like to thank is Cedric Maxwell, my old man Cornbread. But I tell you what, we had a lot of fun together, and he was supportive because as you come off the bench, you're always taking somebody out, and normally it was Max, and he was always there with a pat on the rump saying, "Hey, big fella, go out there and get to work." And that was great to play with guys like that.
And And people didn't know just how close you and I were. People said, well, Kevin came in and, and once he was there and then he took your place and then you were gone. I said, when Kevin emerged into the player he was, I was maybe his biggest cheerleader. I loved what he was able to do because I saw a player grow.
Yeah, no, Max, I tell people all the time, you were so supportive and helped me in so many different ways. And, hey, look, like I say, my first few years, it's hard in the NBA. First of all, I'm going to a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals the year before I get there. You guys were already pretty set. So I come in there and, Bill Fitch, he was in your and I's ass all the time. And so if I made a few mistakes, I just went to the bench. So I had to go out there. I had to play really well. And I always remember, when I had it going, man, you'd be like, hey, keep it going. You're playing well. And there were a lot of nights, man, you don't have it going as a rookie, because the league is big, man. And as I said, I came in and clearly after my first week of practice, I went, okay, Cedric Maxwell, better than I am. Robert Parrish, better than I am. Larry Bird, better than I am. I got to improve. But I took pieces of all your guys' games, your ability to spin and move. Robert's just shooting over. I did more of a fadeaway, but I just learned how to shoot over the top of people like Robert did. And then with Larry, it was just clever. Larry had all the clever stuff, guarding him in practice was hilarious. He'd look away and that guy had more sneaky stuff. I look at him and say, that's the sneakiest dude I ever guarded. But, just playing against you guys, I tell people all the time, Max was so supportive. And, and not only with me, with everybody. I remember one day you took Danny and Danny couldn't make a jump, got to save his ass. And you took him and you worked with him. And you had him pumped up. You were going, hey, your shot looks great. He was making shots. And the first shot he got in off the bench, the next game, he hit the side of the backboard and went out of bounds. And you looked at me and go, all that work went down the drain.
It was just amazing. I remember sitting there with Danny. I said, Danny, what they're going to do is they don't respect you. So what they're going to do, as soon as you pass to me, they're going to double team me because they know I'm going to score. So I want you to run to a spot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot the ball to you in the corner. Exactly what happened. He throws into me. His man runs down. I throw it out to him. He spots up nicely. Hits the side of the backboard, and I know you just looked at me like, all that fucking work you did. And it was surreal. Just the things that happened at that time. I want to get your opinion on the state of the affairs in the NBA because you've been a head coach, you were GM, you were a player. And now you're a broadcaster. So you've run this full gambit. How do you think the players are now, and how do you feel about it?
Max, I there's things I like and things I don't like. I like the spacing. Man, we all played on top. You know how many 2 and 3 foot passes we made to each other?
Oh my God.
You pump fake and hand the ball to the guy. Because there were times there was all 10 people in the paint. And it was just, we played in such a small space, and we were a post-up team. You were driving, pick and play. I posted up, Robert posted up, Larry would post up. But what I like about I look at it right now, and I laugh when people say, good guys play right now. With all the room, Max, that there was up there, you're driving from the elbow, and you're driving from those, we weren't driving from the 3-point line. We got it where it was one dribble lay in. They couldn't stop that because it's just all spread out. So I love the way the court is spread. I really don't like the way the passing is. Good Lord. Throwing the ball ahead now, I don't know what you got to do to make a guy throw the ball ahead. You got to beg him to just throw the ball ahead. And once you throw the ball ahead, you've turned a 5-on-5 into a 3-on-2, a little mini 3-on-2. And if you have playmakers, the driving and kicking game is just where this game is at right now. I think. And if you can get in the paint and collapse the defense, you got it made. Antetokounmpo gets in the paint, either finishes or he throws it out. And we had all kinds of guys that could get in the paint. I tell people, all of us, Larry, me, you, Robert, we could go by our guy pretty easily. Whether it was Robert's spin or whatever, we all got by our guy. And it was always the other guy that tried to help out. Today's game, if we're drawing 2, guys are wide open all over. So I like this space. I don't like the fact that people don't pass. And good Lord, they over dribble. The first time they get the ball, they back up between their legs. And I'm just going how about playing off the catch and, and so I think, Max, I think honestly, we've given into way too much. Any three is a good three. No, good threes are good threes. Open threes are good threes.
Thank you.
Hey, Max, how about good shooters open are good threes? Bad shooters open. The reason they're open, like you said with Danny, that guy wasn't going to go out there. He was just going to make Danny make some shots, So I see guys who really can't shoot or shoot the ball at 28%, and they'll take 5 threes in a game. And I'm thinking, I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, you shoot the ball at 25% of your threes. You're lucky to make 1. They're 0 for 5, and all those long rebounds are fast break starters. When you get the ball and you go. And that's the other thing. I think that we really ran. We ran when there was nothing to run, because all I know is Bill Fitch yelled at me every time I didn't run. And he yelled at you every time. But he didn't yell at everybody else. He yelled at Robert too. But us three were the ones that got it.
Whoa, why was Larry immune to getting yelled at?
Larry and Tiny. I noticed right away he didn't want to say anything to Tiny either. So if I just hung around Larry and Tiny more, I'd be okay. I hung around you, I got yelled at all the time. Our ability to run, Max, would have been fun in today's game. Our ability to run and spread the court and attack. Now, we ran for 2s, but layups are layups. I mean, think about how many easy shots we got in our break situation. We ran and everybody knew how to play.
One thing I'm mad at you about is the fact that I have had every one of these assistant coaches that you were under you always walk up to me and going, "Oh man, Mac told me this story about you." Chris Webber comes over to everybody, tells me these stories that Kevin McHale has shared, and they're all the Cedric Maxwell stories. So I'm like, what did I do now?
It was all good, Max. I tell you what, the story, they all end up good. In the middle, it may not be so good, but at the end of the story, it's all good. No, I tell everybody, getting back to what we talked about, you were so supportive. You helped me so much. And you really helped me just on so many different ways on the basketball floor, just kind of to find myself. Because when look at that, I don't care what anybody says, when you're a rookie in this league, especially back when you played back, it was so much more physical. I mean, I remember, you had Lonnie Shelton people to deal with, man. And I tell you right now, they'd put some wood on your ass. And so you had a lot of stuff you're dealing with, just the physicality of the game, trying to figure everything out. We had, our offense and playing with guys and stuff like that. But I tell everybody, you were just so supportive. And, there's just the way you guys treated me as a rookie was really, I mean, Tiny was really in my corner. You could feel it. Like I'd make a couple shots and Tiny would walk up. Tiny's quiet when he plays. He was one of the guys that never talked any smack and stuff like that. We were all yapping and crazy. And Tiny would come up to you and go, all right, you got to go on, Rook. Keep it going. I'd be like on cloud 9. I'd be like, oh man, Tiny Archibald. I'm thinking Tiny Archibald, like I'm playing with Tiny Archibald. And then he's telling me I'm doing a good job. I'm like, hey man, I was ready to take on the world. Like, hey, it could have been Moses. I'm like, let me at him, baby. I got Tiny said I'm doing a good job. But you guys were so good at that. And a lot of my stories are about you guys in my first few years in the league.
You've coached 2 great players, 2 really great players. You had Harden and you had Kevin Garnett. Mm-hmm. The difference between the 2 players are?
Kevin is a pass first guy. Kevin is absolute, James is a scorer. And and there's nothing wrong with being a scorer, but scorers have a different mentality, as you know, Max. James can go out and get 10 assists any night he wants. The guy's got phenomenal vision. When he first got to Houston, when I was coaching him, he made a drive, left-handed, throws a bullet to the right corner from I went like, how the hell did he see that? I mean, it was one of those LeBron James. I mean, you have to have special vision to see some of the stuff he sees. But, I used to tell the guys on the team, dude, they get a little, pissy. And James is shooting. I said, dude, he can get 20 assists anytime he wants. He's got great vision. But what turns his clock is scoring. He's a scorer. And, you've been with scorers before. Yeah. They want to see that ball go in the net, man. I don't care. He could be, 0 for 2. We could be up 25. He could be going for 50 assists. He wants to see that ball go in. KG was different. KG was just made the right play all the time. Like at times you'd tell KG, you're hot, just go ahead and shoot it. But someone would pop open, he just hit him. I'd be like, well, that's what he's going to do. He was just, he was brought up playing the game. Like you would have loved, he would have fit with our team so well.
Oh yeah. Because
if you got hot, Max, he would just keep feeding you. And he's a interesting guy because he doesn't care that much about all the stats. And I've said this before. That dude's got 26,000 points in his career. He's a pass-first player. Max, we played with dudes who never passed and got 12,000 points. He has 26,000 points and is a pass-first dude, which is amazing. James is a scorer with unbelievable vision. And also Kevin really took the challenge defensively. Like if you went to Kevin, he would come to you a lot of times and say, this guy's hot. Let me have him the last 4 minutes of the game. Or otherwise I'd say to him, come here. Don't get any fouls now, because I need you at the end to guard whoever it is. And I want you guarding them with 3 fouls, not with 5 fouls. So just, hey, if you got to let someone go by you, do it in the third quarter, because at the end, we're going to win this game. You know how it is, Max. You win a lot of games if you're a good team against other good teams in the last 5 minutes of the game. And you better have your top defenders on their top offensive guys. James didn't like that. James didn't like that dynamic. He was not going to say, let me go have LeBron. Whereas KG would look at you and say, I got LeBron, I'll stop him. You're thinking, I don't know if you'll stop him, but I like the, like we were dumb enough to say, I got that guy all the time too. We did the same thing. Max, guy get hot. I remember you saying, I got him. I remember thinking, I'm not sure you got him. That dude's on fire. But it was much more of a mindset. And KG had that mindset of just kind of, like I say, scorers are different, man. And there's nothing wrong with scorers. You need scorers. But KG and from mentally, we're coming from 2 complete different spaces. KG actually got as happy for you scoring than he did he scored. His team scoring was what it was. James wanted to put up some numbers, and he did, and he does.
I see the way that James kind of, and you in Houston, that the way he left Houston really just soured the way guys are almost forcing themselves out of situations now to other teams. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, you know what? I don't like it, honestly. I just think that, and I have nothing wrong with free agency. I have nothing wrong, but to not play hard and go there and just say, this team sucks. I'm only going to give a half-ass effort. That kind of stuff. You don't do that. If you leave, there's nothing wrong with going to. I don't think there's anything wrong at all. And I had to happen when I was a GM. Guy would come in and just say, look, I don't fit here anymore. Or I want to change. I want to do that. Everything is quiet. I get on the phone with other GMs. You try to make a trade, because who wants to have guys there that aren't happy? Who wants to have guys there and say, we can't win here? You know what I mean? And so you do it, but boy, not to go public, Max. I just think there's some things you can't go public with. I just think that just, okay, he had a hell of a run in Houston. I think he got to the conference finals twice, and bottom line was there were just teams better than the Houston Rockets. Like we played Golden State in the conference finals. My last full year there as a head coach. You know what? We played them hard. They were better than we were. I mean, we fought like hell. We had a couple of games we could have won. We won 1 game. We probably should have won 2, maybe 3. But at the end of the day, you got done with that series. I was like, man, that team is tighter than we are. Their offense, it moves, just passing. Steph and Clay, all the movement has the defense, on tilt all the time. So they were better. So James had a good run in Houston. It shouldn't have ended the way it did. Now he's going to end up spending all this time, Max, trying to patch up that breakup. You know what I mean? And it didn't need to be that way. He just needed to go in there quiet, come out, come in shape, bust his butt, play great, and then move him. And then everybody would say, okay. And at the end, you know what? There's nothing wrong with, after everything's done, Max, to say, no, I went to management and I want to win a championship, and this is where I wanted to go, and this is what I did. So I think also, it's like, I laugh. It's like the teams we played against, like it would have been hard for me to go play for Philly after all the stuff that we did against them. You know what I mean? Like you guys were my guys, and I had so much faith in our ability to beat people that I was like, hey, let's line it up and play. Like, I like my odds, man. Now, you guys might be better on paper. You might be, but you know what? We got some stuff here on this group that paper doesn't count on. We had heart. We had ability to scrap. And, like I will tell everybody, like my first year in the league, what I noticed from you guys, like I wasn't capable of putting multiple games together. I just wasn't defined enough and refined enough as a player. You dudes would have 2 weeks where you'd be the best player on the floor. Then like Robert would be the best player on the floor for 2 weeks. Then Larry would be the best player. All of a sudden Tiny would have a 10-day period where I'm thinking Tiny's 22 again. Like, what's he doing? And you guys just carried the team for long periods of time. And I wasn't capable of doing that at that time. And I think that gave us so much confidence. Like, you were the MVP in '81. And someone asked me about that. I said, I've seen Max be the best player on this team for 2 weeks before. This isn't the first time I've seen Max just get on a roll. I said, these guys are all capable of getting on rolls. And so that's why with that team, it'd have been hard to leave that team. You know, like you just said, you can go to some team that, you know, supposedly is better. I'm not sure anybody was better. They might have had more talent, but we found ways, man. We won games. I'm telling you what, we won games. I didn't say anything as a rookie because I thought the NBA was like it. I thought everybody was a genius. I thought everybody knew how to play. I thought, you know, we'd win games. I'd sit in my locker after a game. I said, damn, we were down 5 with a minute 8 in the game. And we won in regulation. I'd be like, you know, in college, hell, you lose that game by 10 because you foul, you know, all that stuff. And we won games. You guys were amazing to me because I literally would sit there and look around the locker room and go like, how in the hell did we win that game? And so we found ways. So it'd have been hard for me to go to another team, Max. I don't like that. I think there's a way to do it. And I just think the constant guys like Kyrie Irving. Okay, now he was a Celtic for a while.
Yes.
The way he leaves places, you know, he leaves Boston, it's bad. He leaves Cleveland, it's bad. You know, you can. There's a way to do it without burning every bridge. There's a way to do it with coming out and saying, "Hey, man, I'm changing." So I don't like that aspect of the whole thing of just going out and the super teams. You know, I mean, it's happening. So everybody might as well get used to it. Because you're going to see more of it because I think guys are going to say, you know, I'm gonna win a championship just due to me going to play with this group of guys, as opposed to, man, I got a group of guys. We did it organically. We were all together, and let's go fight. You know.
You were around in Boston for some of the brightest moments, and then some of the darkest moments. Len Bias, Reggie passing away. I mean, because I even look at Len Bias could have lengthened your career and Larry's career in the fact that he came in immediately and played and took some of those minutes away from you. Tell us how those dark moments really affected you.
Yeah, I did. You know, it's odd because, you know, we win the championship and draft Lenny Bias. And the kid was just a stud. He was a horse. I mean, he was 6'8", but he great body, strong, pogo stick, you know, had a nice touch. So you look at that and go, oh, wow. I mean, fantastic. And at that point, Max, as you know, we had a hell of a run. You look at our 81 team and then all the way up through 85. We're in the finals all the time. We're playing late in the season. So we do that again in 86 draft. And, you know, I can actually starting to feel myself needing the summer to recover. Like, you know, like I would get done and I'd be like, damn, I need to just do nothing for, you know, July and August because I'm tired. I mean, my body's beat up. I think he would have helped a lot with that. But I remember we drafted him, met him draft night. You know, Lynn and I were still in Boston, hadn't gotten back to our lake home yet. And all of a sudden, 2 days later, I'm driving in the car and Lenny Bias died. And I'm like, no way. You know, you think,
yeah,
it's a big joke. You know, I mean, there's just no way Lenny Bias died. The guy was a horse. And you know, I went down to the Celtics office back Red's old office when it was at the old Garden, and I went in there and I said, how can this be? And he, you know, and right away I said something weird happened. You know, my first thought was he got in an accident or something like that. But you know, I didn't think drug overdose until much later. But I remember telling Red, that dude just didn't die. I mean, there's something odd, and you know, then it was so depressing because then that's all everybody talked about. We won a championship, and all everybody talked about was poor Lenny, and he's right. What a shame, and that hurt. That really did hurt. I think Larry and I's career because the next year is when I broke my navicular and just started kind of. I really wasn't hurt till 87, 88. Then I never was healthy after that. So he would have really helped. And then Reggie was a friend of mine. So Reggie was really odd. We were playing Max. We're playing Charlotte. Reggie goes down. And I run over to him, you know, I'm gonna give him a hand up because he's kind of sitting there. You know, you get dazed. You know, a guy rips through and hits you on the chin. No one else sees it, but you're like just, you know, you're like on Rubber Lake Street. You're like looking around. I thought, man, he must have got clipped. So, but I went, Reggie, okay, and his eyes are just like, you know, he really looks distant. And I said, oh man, you got your bell rung, dude. You know, so I'm telling Eddie Lacerte, Eddie, he got popped in the head, and that was the last time I saw Reggie. And next thing you know. Yeah, and the next thing you know, he's not in the locker room. He goes to the hospital. I'm retiring that year. That's my last year, and not thinking that it could be that bad. And the same thing, Ed Lacerte called me up and he said, I think Reggie died. And I said, what do you mean? He said he was over at Brandeis shooting and doing some stuff, and he fell. He collapsed. And Eddie rushed over. Someone called Eddie, and they tried to get there. Then Eddie got there, and the medics had already taken him to the hospital. But I think he was I think he was gone by that time. So Eddie was like, we were all shook up. It was a shame. Reggie was such a good guy. And, you know, Reggie was, when I tell the stories, I tell a lot of guys that when I GM'd and coached, I said, man, you're going to get an opportunity. It's what you do with that opportunity that's going to determine your league. So Reggie really didn't get an opportunity because, you know, Larry was playing. Larry, everybody got hurt. I mean, there was like 6 of us that could play. And Reggie just was one of them. So Reggie comes out in the first half, and he's tight, man. You know, he's just, you can just see he hadn't had a lot of time. He's tight. And he just, you know, so after the game, I said, Reg, come here. For the next 2-3 weeks, man, just go out there and just play, because the coach can't even substitute for you. Hell, we're all going to play 40 minutes because we have nobody left. And he had 22 points in the first half of the next game. And he walked by me and I was like, who is this guy? And every time, you know, I'm like, I've seen some flashes of that in practice, but not like that. I mean, he was lighting up good defenders. You know, Reggie did that pull up and he did that little fade and he jumped about that high off the ground, and he was 6'7" with crazy long arms. He was just shooting over the best defenders in the league. And I was like, damn, that can't be that easy. And he got his chance. And I tell people all the time, you're going to get your chance. What you do with it. And I'll tell you what, from that point on, Reggie never got off the floor. He stayed on the floor after he got that chance to play, because he lit it up. I say that when he walked by me half time, I was laughing. I slapped him on the ass. I said, who's that guy in your body, man? I got the invasion of you got some sort of, something invaded you. He just laughed. He was really a good guy. And what a shame, because, you know, I think Reggie could have bridged. He was young when I was retiring anyway, but he could have bridged that next gap for the Celtics, because they had kind of went into no man's land for a while, and then, you know, they got it saved. But yeah, Reggie and Lenny were just both surprised. Much more for me. It hurt me a lot more on Reggie, because I really knew him. And Reggie was really a good guy. I mean, really a tremendous guy. Now, I never heard Reggie say a bad word about anybody. I mean, it was amazing. Like, we were all MFing somebody at some point. And Reggie never said a bad word about anybody. Just a really wonderful guy.
I take you to even the brightest spot, away from all the darkness. Talk about the Lakers and the series that we had, and just how competitive we were. And Kevin McHale, as great as he was as a player, will always be known as the guy who clotheslined Kurt Rambis. And that is just a funny story, because I always remembered, like, ML goading you up over there. And we had a practice before that where we said nobody was going to get any layups. And, you know, that was just kind of, people asked me, said, how did Kevin do? I said, of all the guys on that team, he was the last guy that I expected to go ham and clothesline the dude coming through the lane. And it galvanized us as a team. And okay, Laker fans, Laker team, you want to kick ass, take names? Let's fight. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because you had a great comment after I think it was game 3. You looked at me and go, man, we got one chance. They run themselves to death because they were going up and down the floor. And I kind of look at you, I go, oh, man. I said, I hear you, Brett. It was just, I mean, they were up and down on us. Yeah, we had the practice. KC kept on saying, I'm tired of layups. Everybody, I'm tired of layups. It just kind of went over and over again. And, of course, they started out the game doing what they always did. They're running up and down. And like I say, my only regret, honestly, it wasn't Worthy or Magic or someone better. It just happened to be Kurt Rambis. And I just was like, no layups. I was like, whatever happens, there's not going to be a layup. So I just went, I didn't even think. Normally, Max, you and I, you know, we were pretty good defenders. We made plays on the ball a lot. Guys would maybe try to slap it, you know, or challenge up top or get our body in the way. I wasn't making a play on the ball. I was making a play on him. You know, I was like, screw it, you know. So, yeah, we do that. And then everybody gets going. And what people forget to realize is that, like, maybe 5 minutes later, Larry and Kareem are going nose to nose.
Yes.
And they're screaming at each other, MFing each other left and right. And I kind of went like, ooh, okay, now we got something going here. And then, you know, we didn't play great in those games, but we offensive rebounded the hell out of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And we kind of just imposed our will on him, Max, because we didn't shoot the ball that well, but we were just throwing it up there, getting it, throwing it up there, getting it, throwing it up there, and getting it, just throwing people. The referees quick blowing the whistle. We were just throwing people out of the way, going and getting offensive rebounds. And we won that series just because we were better on the boards than they were, you know, and we just kept on getting the game closer and closer. And then in game 7, you know, you had a great game, and we did what we always did. That's why I tell people, I said, Max had it going. If Max had it going, we're going to get him the ball. If Robert had it going, we're going to get Robert the ball. It was kind of who got it going.
Yeah.
That team was not a selfish team. That team was a very unselfish team, you know. You got to go on, Max. We won in game 7. Honestly, were they probably a better team? I would say talent-wise, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But we had a toughness level to us that we could go chase the ball off the board. You were hard to box out. You were just slippery. It was hard to get. Like, I had to learn how to 3-quarter and keep on you, because if I just did the standard turn and go, you were always going to the side of me. I'm like, damn, that guy's tricky. And you know, and Larry, I tell people this. People don't how strong that guy was. Like, Larry would come into you and grab you and just be like, I remember the first time I'm guarding, I'm like, damn, that guy's strong. And Robert was just clever too at getting the offense. So we had guys that could get the offensive glass. And hey, Danny and DJ were both good rebounders. I mean, they would come in there. So we just kind of just hammered them on the glass. But yeah, that was fun. That was unbelievably competitive. I went back and looked at they had this, you know, the 30 for 30. And boy, you forget, man. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was fun, and we had such a tight team that's what I tell everybody. We had such a tight team that it was going to be hard to break our bond. Like, you weren't going to get us fighting each other. We might yell at each other and have, you know, little things like that. Like, you know, like you said, like you and I would play against Robert and Larry. And there was a lot of shit talking going on over there. I mean, you know, and it got intense at times, you know. So we weren't afraid to do that to each other. But when the game started, we were all on the same page. And I'd like to say something about Robert before we go on. Robert might have been the most disciplined, not make mistakes, in the right spot every single time. He was amazing. That dude defensively just did his assignment all the time. And offensively, he just, you know, it was funny. I tell people he was just so dependable. It was just like, Robert was like a clock. You just wind him up and he put him out there, and he was going to get 18 to 22 points. He was going to get 10 to 12 rebounds, and he wasn't going to mess up. It wasn't throwing the ball in the third. He was just an amazing, dependable guy. And I was lucky to play with him for 12 years. And that's what I always think about Robert. I always think about, man, that dude was just so dependable. It was just amazing. But I think on that team, that 84 team, we had a lot of guys that was, you know, that we all depended on each other too. And we weren't, you know, and like I say, you got hot in game 7, but whoever was going to get hot was going to get the ball. And that was the fun thing about that team. So we had multiple people that could go off for a 15 or 18 point quarter. And that helped us a lot, Max. How many games where we had nothing, but one guy would have a 17-point quarter and just keep us in the game. And all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, we started making shots. Our defense picked up, and we'd win the game. Had no chance of winning that game unless, you know, you or myself or Robert or Larry or one of the guys didn't, you know, Danny or DJ just had a big quarter to keep us hanging around. So that was a fun team. But that Lakers, that was special, man. That you know, of all the basketball I played, that was about as special as it gets. Because, you know, I played against Magic in college, and, you know, the whole thing. And I know for Larry, winning that thing was big too after Indiana State, Michigan State. He didn't say much, but I tell you what, you could just tell he was like, okay, I got you now. I got you back.
People didn't realize how, I want to say, that Magic really motivated Larry to be even better, because I remember many days going to practice, and first thing Larry would be, you know, reading the paper to see what Magic had done with the late box scores from, you know, what the Lakers had done on the West Coast. And it was just, those two fed off each other with an anger. And when they got together, we were in the most amazing quiet storm. I always say that when we played the Lakers in 1984, basketball was basketball. But I don't think I got any better than that 7-game series. Just the physicality, the thinking, the art of talking shit, you know, fighting. It was. I'm like you. As much as I love when we beat Houston, I always thought that it was even better when we beat the Lakers, because of the nature of the two teams and a guy we idolized. You and I love Kareem. We were we were Kareem junkies. And then we hated James Worthy, though. We hated his ass. And even today, I always talk to people. I said, James Worthy right now, when the Lakers beat the Celtics, and James Worthy will light up a cigar and go, got some of that Celtic ass again. I mean, it's just, still, we cannot get by it. I had an incident where we did I think it was like before Kobe, we had a game in LA, and Kobe's passing, and we had a thing where myself, Kurt Rambis, was Michael Cooper, and Brian Scalabrine were there. And the first picture they show on the screen was the choke of you when you grab Rambis, and everybody started booing. That was so funny. But what I'm saying about all this is that I really laugh because who sticks their head in the door? We're having this meeting, it's a big little conference before the game. Magic Johnson sticks his head in. Oh, I didn't know you guys were having a meeting. Yeah. Oh, Jeannie, I just came down to say hello. I came down from my suite. I was like, and then he gets on the stage, walks in, takes the mic, walks up to me and wants to shake my hand. I said, I'm not shaking your fucking hand. I'm not doing that. And he's like, no, you got to show me love. I'm like, really? So there's still, like, I want to say still animosity, but there's respect, but there's still animosity between the players from that era.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we got after it. It's funny because you and I tell people all the time, Kareem is like unbelievable. Why he's not mentioned every time they say the best player ever is crazy. I mean, that guy, he swung shots on me, that skyhook. I just was like, come on now. Fading away, going to the corner, 15-footer. And I'd be like, I got nothing for that. I mean, I got nothing. You just hope he misses it. And, Worthy, who really is a great guy. James Worthy, I met him. He's a really good
guy's an asshole. He's an asshole.
We couldn't stand him. It would be hilarious. It'd be hilarious because we couldn't stand him. But there was something about that. And also, at that time too, the league was really kind of building around around Larry and Magic. It was always, Magic in the Lakers and Larry in the Celtics. And so they built it up, man. And so, and David Stern did a great job. Like, God bless his soul, man. He got us all, everybody paid. And these guys today, we missed out on a lot of those paychecks, but the guys today are doing okay on it. But they took the league. So every time we played, that was a massive buildup. And rightfully so. Those two guys at that time were the face of the league. And they had played in the 79 NCAA finals. That was like an unbelievably watched thing with Michigan State, Indiana State. So there was just a buildup. And I thought David Stern did a great job of using those two guys and their teams and everything to kind of propel the league. And I tell everybody, there's three people that propelled the league, with Larry, Magic, and David Stern. I mean, they got the television ratings going. Do you remember, Max, our first year, it was tape delayed. We played Houston and we won in the finals. You had to stay up to 11 o'clock at night just to watch the game. Hell, by the time you got done watching the game, it was 3 a.m. and it was tape delayed. And then think about 84 when we play again in the finals. It's
yes.
Time. It's how many people, how many reporters were sitting around like the side of the, like when you went to the court, there was hundreds and hundreds of reporters in 84.
You know what, Mac? There were reporters and there were also fellow players, guys on other teams. Because I remember Isaiah being there and Mark Aguirre being at the game. And it's when you think about players who are there watching you for that final game, that I don't think that anybody can realize what it's like to play a seventh game when you know that the marbles, somebody's going to be crying and somebody's going to be laughing. And just the intensity in our locker room that particular day, to me was massive, because we walked in, as you said, we all joked, we all laughed. That was pretty much our locker room, comedy of errors, we loved that. But that day, it was a different vibe about that particular game because it was a seventh game.
Yeah, no question. But it's funny about that team, Max. That vibe that we had would happen in the fourth quarters of tight games too. We come to the bench, it was quiet. Like we'd sit there and Bill Fitch would be writing up, and we all kind of sat there, and we had a different vibe in tight games. And it was funny because we all got quiet and we were all yapping and crazy. But at that time, we all got really quiet, and we all just looked at what we had to do. we got it. Let's go execute it. So there was a really quiet confidence about that group. I remember being with you guys again, being a rookie, and coming over there, and when the game got tight, man, it was cool. You looked around and like, okay, ML got the game face on, Max got the game face on, Robert, Larry, everybody's got the game face on, and that whole thing coming to Game 7, we all had our game faces on. I mean, it was just going to be, and I really felt that at that time, the game had gotten a little bit more physical in our favor, had gotten a little bit more rough and rugged. It wasn't just a track meet, thank God. And I really thought, if we can just, we're going to win this thing. We got to make sure we take care of don't give them many seconds, and let's get as many seconds as we can. And we just kept throwing the ball up there. And I don't think, you had to go on. I don't think a lot of people really, I don't think our numbers, we didn't have like I shoot a great percentage.
No, we did.
We just kept going, getting the ball and battling. And that was a feeling of, I remember after we won that thing, that we really accomplished something. I mean, that was like, man, if you'd have said after Game 3, were we going to win that series? The Vegas odds were like 0. And to come back at that team, but you talked about the quiet confidence. That's what I always liked about that team. And every once in a while, when I was coaching, you'd get with a team that would get that. You get the right 5 group of guys, man. You'd come down for 2 minutes. They were all locked in. They weren't going to make mistakes. And we didn't beat ourselves. That was one thing I learned too from you guys, is that don't beat yourself. And that ML used to always tell me, look, I tell you what, they'll give us this game if you just allow them to give us the game. Just throw the ball to your teammate. Don't throw it to them. That's what they always tell me at the end of the games. And it's amazing how many, we did not make mistakes to beat ourselves very often. That would be very, very seldom do we beat ourselves. Teams beat us, but we didn't beat ourselves. And that was fun. And that was kind of what the thought I had going in that Game 7. I was like, well, these cats are going to have to beat us because we ain't going to beat ourselves. And
how is the guy who didn't play as much, ML Carr, influence the game as much as he did? Because I keep hearing there's a reoccurring theme about hearing ML and just him chirping and what he was saying, and this is what I'll do to a guy, and it's just maddening when I think about ML Carr. As first of all, he was playing a lot, and then his minutes went down, but he still affected us in a very positive way.
One of the most positive teammates you could ever have. I mean, ML Carr, I tell you what, he's one of those foxhole dudes, because when the fight starts, you want ML in your foxhole with you, because you know what? Once the fight starts, he's willing to do anything. He's willing to knife you, hand grenade you, bomb you. I mean, ML's going to do whatever it takes to win that when you're in the foxhole with ML. And you felt that. Max, you felt it a million. I felt that all the time, that man, he was there with you. And he may not have been playing as much, but we put him in for defensive situations. We put him in for different times where, he needed. I remember how about he gets a steal in one of the games, and we were walking back, and ML looks at me, he goes, headlines tomorrow in the Boston Herald, ML Carr steals the game. And he played like 5 minutes, but M would go out there and take defensive assignments. I mean, when M, especially when his minutes weren't at what they were earlier, when he's playing more, the coaches say, ML, you got this guy. I'm like, I felt sorry for that dude. ML had no fouls. He's going in with an attitude, and he's gonna beat the hell out of that guy. So he affected a lot of us. I tell everybody, he was, I tell everybody, you and he, from just talking and helping me out and stuff like that. Robert was really positive. Robert never said a bad word about anybody. Another great guy, But mostly from Robert was playing against him, just kind of his game. Same thing with Larry. I just learned stuff from them. But you guys were much more vocal in helping us young guys out, and you helped Danny, you helped myself, ML did. I was so grateful for you guys for doing that. But yeah, ML, he was funny. He play 3 minutes and he'd get the headline in the paper. ML Carr wins the game.
I really remember this, and people always tell me about this story. It was when we first got Danny Ainge, and we were playing Hellenic College, and I'm on the podium, and Danny goes, he's still shooting. And I'm over there yapping his stats out every time. 1 for 2, 2 for 5, 2 for 6, 2 for 17. I'm like, by the time the end of the day, I had got I think he only made 3 shots out of 20. And I'm over there like, why do we have this guy? What are we doing over here?
Yeah, Danny came in, and I felt bad for him because I came in a couple of days later of training camp. Danny came in December. Remember that? Our team was pretty tight. We had won the championship the year before. Danny comes in, leaves baseball, and Bill Fitch was tough on young guys, and he was killing Danny. So Danny had no confidence. I mean, Danny, look at the one thing Danny could really do was shoot.
Yeah.
And plus he was a freakish athlete. How fast was Danny? Danny was so fast. And I'd be like, well, you used to always say he was a white black guy.
White black.
And he would just run and do stuff. But that poor guy, I felt so sorry for him. That's like the story we talked about earlier. You helped him out, man. You sat there and shot with him for like 45 minutes after practice one day, just pumping him up and getting him going. But Danny had a tough start with us just because there really wasn't room for minutes just to give him time. And we weren't losing games. You talked about Game 7 in Boston. I remember many games, like, toward the latter part of the season, maybe with 20 games to go, we'd be playing, and there would be a bad call. And I would look at the referee and say, man, you got to get your head out of your ass. And he would look at you and go like, I say, we're trying to beat the Lakers. We're not trying to beat this team. We're trying to get a better team, better overall record than the Lakers, because I was already looking at them and who's going to get Game 7. Who's going to get those games? So Danny didn't have a chance to really kind of just flow into come into a bad team and just flow. He earned everything he got. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I respected Danny's work ethic because he did not come easy. And Bill Fitch was on his ass.
He was absolutely.
He battled and battled and battled and battled and battled. But at the end of the day, Max, I think one thing you'll say about Danny, he's a battler. I mean, that's what he is. Yeah. Danny's a competitive dude, man. He just never got down. He just kept fighting, and he earned his time. And actually, when Red made another very good trade, when he traded Gerald Henderson, to kind of open that spot up for Danny.
Yeah.
And that ended up being a great trade. I think that was the Lenny Bias. Lenny Bias pick. So, but Danny did a great job of just kind of persevering through. Because I'll tell you one thing: when it was your time to have Bill Fitch in your ass, it was not a good time. I mean, he would stay on it for a couple days in a row. Then finally, I'd be so happy when he started yelling at you at practice. I go, thank God, he's off me. He's been on me for 2 days. And then I always remember Chief one day. Chief, it was Chief's turn, and he was yelling. All of a sudden, Chief goes, "That's it. That's it. That's motherfucking it. That's it." And he just starts saying, "That's it. That's it." And I'm like, oh shit. And it was like a volcano was getting ready to go. And every time, because you know how quiet Robert was, every time Robert would go, "That's it. That's motherfucking it." I was like, oh man. And he went off, and we were at Boston Garden. I remember it because Robert just went off. I was like, whoa. Like Bill kind of tried. Bill and he went and sat in the stands, and I think, and after that, he did not jump Robert nearly as much. Yeah. That was up to you and I. That we get that. We don't take the weight now. Robert blew up. I was like, oh boy. When Robert got that, man, I was like, oh man, I've never seen the big fella look like this.
Wow. Kevin, I'm gonna move a little bit, and we're almost done here, but I want you to tell me what's going on right now with you and Turner. I mean, that situation you're in now, and the guys you're around. I love when you run these roundtables talking to different players, and and the way they respect you and look up to you as champions, and but then you see Charles Barkley, as great as he was, not to win the championship, they're always down in Chuck for whatever reason it might be. Like, you didn't win, Shaq will just bury him,
Yeah. That just working for the whole Turner Sports thing, NBA TV, TNT, that they were great people there, and they were really fun to work with. But yeah, it's funny, Max, because I think we were doing it, and we loved to play basketball, and hell, it was the best paycheck we were going to make. No one paying me anything near that to do anything else in my life. So it was fun. And you don't realize how many of these young guys we really affected, because you talk to these guys, and they will go like, oh man, my high school coach was saying, you got to watch the Celtics, got to watch that team, how they play together, and blah, blah, blah. So it was really interesting because, yeah, there was I just didn't realize we affected that many people.
C-Web idolizes you. I mean, yeah. when he talks to me, he'll come to me and he will search me out and see me. He'll come up, man, let me tell you what Max said about you. And he goes on. You must have filled his head with so many different things. It's astounding to me.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was fun because I just kept on telling him. I said, he kind of came into a team that wasn't that good, and I said, I just came in the opposite thing. I came into an established team, and I learned how to win. And I said, Max, if you've got talent, you know this. if you got talent and you're willing to take 24 shots, probably 10 of them are bad shots, you're going to get 20 plus points.
Yeah.
But it's easier to get points than it is to win. People look at me and they think I'm crazy. Greg Anthony used to always tell me, no, because Greg, I said, that's because you weren't talented enough to go and get your points. I said, and Greg's a good guy, he's my buddy. And I said, yeah, I said, no, it's easier to put up points than it is to win. Mm-hmm. Winning is the hardest thing to do in the NBA. And, so I came in the winning thing. So with Chris, I always just talked about my experiences with you guys and how you guys taught me and how you guys held me accountable. And when I messed up, you guys were not afraid to jump my ass either. I mean, many times I got to the bench and now Bill's going to yell at me. And I said, I've already heard it from Max, ML, Tiny, Larry. I messed up the coverage. I know I got it, because by the time I got there, you guys had walked up to me and said, hey, Rook, you got to do this, or hey, Kevin, you got to do that. So you guys helped us. And, and Chris would always be like, man, I said, Chris, I wish every good player that had talent could come up in that type of thing, because you had to earn your spurs with you guys. Like I said, when I started off, I wasn't better than you guys. I could get it going inside of games and doing stuff. I wasn't able to do 2 weeks like you guys were of just playing at a really, really high level. As a rookie, you do a lot of this, and this was really fun. This sucked. The bottom sucked. So I talked to Chris a lot about that. And so, it was really interesting. He knew so much about the Celtics. And then we talked, and I would tell those guys, I said, man, look, David Stern, Larry, and Magic, and they turned this league around. We were not getting paid the kind of money that you're getting paid today. That was kind of the start of it, Max, where the money started going up and everybody started making a little bit more. So it was a fun, it's a fun group with, the one thing I love about Chuck just lets it go. Chuck doesn't care. He just lets it fly. He's got no filter whatsoever, and he just lets it go, and everybody gets mad. And it's I will say one thing about today's players: they seem so sensitive. Like if every time someone says something about them, they're like, "Well, you hurt my feelings." I'm like, dude, if you played back in night or you get more than your feelings hurt, Lonnie Shelton hurt your head, Max, there was no consideration of like everybody's feelings. It was funny. Like I remember the first time you guys were on the bus, we're driving. I said, you're playing Tonk. And I said, what's Tonk? And ML looks and ML goes, well, Tonk's the game where black guys take white guys' money. And I said, oh, that sounds like something I should get involved in. and there was just, we talked about race all the time and stuff like that, but it was more of it like that. Like, I'd say, okay, so let me get this straight. I get in the game and I give you all my money. He goes, yeah. I said, okay, it sounds like a hell of a deal for me. And
I tell people this story, Kevin.
Nobody was sensitive.
Yeah, befitting of where I'm going was, I remember the time when, and I told the story 1,000 times, and I don't know if you remember it, but I remember the time we were in Salt Lake City, 1980, New Year's Eve, and here I am trying to drink these drinks with you and Larry called Greyhounds. It was vodka and it was vodka and
grapefruit juice.
Vodka
grapefruit juice.
And I just remember I told somebody, we went to a place, and you won't believe this, but it was in Salt Lake City. We went to a restaurant called Southern Plantation. Me, you, and Larry, and Durod, a bunch of people sitting around, and you guys. I was feeling woozy because I always said Larry was weaned on beer, so he was immune to whatever. But I remember feeling so bad, and the joke you guys played on me, I still today, like I was down in my chair, laying down almost in the table. And I said, okay, I'm not feeling good. So let me get up and let me, take a swig of this Southern tea, and it's going to calm me down. I didn't know that you and Larry had spiked my drink with this. Just put like 2 or 3, 4 nips in it. And I took a sip of this stuff, and I just went, I had to go out and feed the animals. But I will never forget, you guys, for that one joke against me. It was unreal.
So I remember we went out that night, yeah. And so we decided we were gonna drink Walter Davis's Greyhounds. And so we go like, we were sitting there, we go, another round of Walter Davis's. And so we had those Greyhounds going. And then you wanted some iced tea. So we got we got some Long Island. It's just loaded with booze. And then and you were just feeling queasy anyways. You took one sip off that thing. I think you went out the door and you threw up.
I did. I went out the door, I fed the animals. Well, Kevin, it's absolutely a pleasure, man, having you on this podcast. And, I wish nothing the best for you and your family. And before I go, is anything you want to say to the Boston family or your people here in New England? Because you're still a legend here in this organization. So you have anything you want to say to Brad and the team?
You know what? Yeah, just hang in there, and the guys, the players, man, make each other better. I just think that if you get a bunch of guys that are committed to making each other better, you make yourself better in doing that. And if you have talent, it's going to shine through. Like, you look at, if you have talent, you're going to find a way to get the ball in the hole. But can you make it better for others? Can you just extra passes? You just make your teammates better, because that's special. And finally, I'll say that, man, Max, just thank you for all the stuff you've done for me my career. The reason I tell people all these stories about you and all the things I say, because you helped me so much, and you were so gracious and so just a good friend. And that was the thing, is that we come from completely different backgrounds, but we all ended up being really good friends. And that friendship, it meant more than anything, really. I mean, it was that friendship carried us through a lot of stuff, and that made those teams special. Just the friendship, and it was a great learning experience for me. And Boston, it was a great time to be in Boston. Remember in that '81 championship, Boston was going through some tough times too. Remember, the unemployment. There was a lot of stuff there. 128 corridor hadn't been built up yet, and all that stuff. And by the time I left, Boston was a happening city. But when I first got there, man, they needed that championship. And that '81 championship was kind of like the whole New England championship, and they supported us. And I had fun. It was an amazing group of guys that got together. And it's funny, in our life now that we're in our 60s, that's 4, 5, 6 years together. But I will tell you one thing. I think about those 4, 5, 6 years a lot.
Yeah.
I think
Mac, I do have to ask one other question before I let you go, because I asked this of everybody, and it's kind of tough. You have a Mount Rushmore of sports. Kevin McHale is building in his backyard. You got 4 people you can put on that Mount Rushmore. Who are those 4 people?
Wow. Well,
it doesn't have to be basketball. Doesn't have to be all basketball. It could be anybody.
Yeah, I would say Muhammad Ali, first of all. I just think he was just an amazing fighter. I mean, you look at his prime, and then he comes back and he's whipping ass, and he's already past his prime. Just Muhammad Ali would definitely be one. Wow, that's so hard. I mean, we talked about it. It's like you got to have a basketball player, because basketball is such a huge thing. Bill Russell, Kareem, Larry, Michael Jordan. It's so hard for me to just pick like one of those guys. And now here's a New England thing. If you're just talking about football, just plain football, how does Tom Brady? I mean, he just won another Super Bowl at 43. At 43, Max, we were trying to nurse our aching bones, man. That's just amazing. And you look at that thing. It's so hard. That's like when everybody says, name your top 5 basketball players. It's so hard because there's so many people that I look at that are so deserving of that award. But I would say that there's a few, like I say, Muhammad Ali. I'd put Tom Brady just from football up there.
Yeah.
That guy, won like crazy. And then I don't know, man. There's all, I'm an old hockey head. So Wayne Gretzky, I mean, you look at that, but no one likes hockey. So how do you put him up there? No one watches.
No, this is your Mount Rushmore. So I don't even care. It's like, this is a question I've asked several people. Serena ends up being on my Mount Rushmore because she's the greatest female athlete, I think, of our time. So just what she was able to do. Yeah,
it's funny because, until you mentioned her, you never thought of her, of course. She's a phenomenal female. There's been so many athletes in our life. And to think, Max, that, that we were actually able to be professional athletes and do what we did, man, and just be talked of. And they had a damn series about us, the Celtics Lakers, and all that crazy stuff we went through. And just thinking about the stuff that we were able to accomplish. But, the nice thing is I was able to accomplish it with you guys. And that really meant as much to me as everything, because again, you guys influenced my life. And from that start in the fall of 1980, Max, I became, through you guys and with you guys, I became a GM, I became a coach, I did color team, I did a lot of stuff, but it was all involved in basketball. And it was all stemmed from that fall of 1980 when I went to Hellenic College, saw you dudes, and called my friends at home and go, let me tell you something. You guys suck. I'm playing with guys that know how to play. You guys stink. Okay, you stink. I don't know what I was playing college ball with you guys for. You guys stink. You guys are just great players. And man, that was just so much fun. And just think, long of a run we've been on is special. And I'm glad you're doing the radio. You do great. I listen to you all the time. I listen to you on my whenever the Celtics are on and they're at home, they keep you guys on there, and I like it. Just fun. So I getting back to what you said, this Celtics team's much better than their record. They just got to start playing for each other and find that thing inside you that says us winning is way more important than me getting it.
Wow.
And it's the we before me, man. And the other thing I'll finish with, I told this to everybody, and I learned it from you guys. If you can't enjoy your teammates' success, you're in the wrong business. You need to go play tennis, because then you're by yourself, then you can yell at the linesman or do whatever you want. But if you don't enjoy your teammates' success, you can only go so far. Because because if I didn't enjoy, your success, we're not going to feed you. I mean, we're going to go like, oh hell, Max has got enough. We're not going to. But enjoying each other's success, it's fun, man. I still remember games like Danny first started getting off, and I'd be like, I slapped him on the ass and said, "Atta baby, Dad. I knew you had it in you." And and you enjoyed other people doing well. And for me to be able to celebrate playing with you and Larry and Robert and DJ and Danny and Henderson and Do-Rod, our good friend. I'm so glad you called me during that whole thing. It was so sad that Do-Rod. Yeah. And Do-Rod's another guy. Think about how many stories we have with Terry Do-Rod. And people wouldn't even know he was on our team. He never played. But I know one thing. Beach!
Well, dude, you are off now. Thank you very much, man. And, enjoy yourself and don't be a stranger, my brother.
You got it, man. Great talking to you, Max. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I just want to take a second and talk about Maragal. With their stem cell research has been amazing. I went and did an evaluation, and I ended up getting a shot. And I'm hoping right now I'm going to be back on the court. These guys were brilliant. They communicate well. They give you an education on what it's like. And that is what really, to me, won me over, because not only were they going to give me an operation, a procedure, but they were going to educate me about this procedure. And in learning and being comfortable, that is how you get well, and that's how you become partners. And my big shout out to those guys. They did a fantastic job. Check them out at maragalmedical.com. That's the place to be.